Madam Clerk, I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is our regularly scheduled meeting of the 22nd of August. Please do a roll call, ma'am.
Okay, Mr. Chair, we have a few new things with our Granicus.
Right. By the way, Granicus is a new system from the last system, so if there are some things that don't look like they're supposed to, let us know and we'll try and get it to work for you. Madam Clerk?
Okay, we have Mr. Weddleton,
Here.
Mr. Rivera,
Present.
Mr. Steele,
Here.
Ms. LaFrance,
Here.
Mr. Traney,
Here.
Mr. Dunbar,
Here.
Mr. Croft,
Here.
Mr. Peterson,
Present.
Mr. Constant, asked to be excused, he's out of town, Ms. Demboski,
Present.
Mr. Dyson.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. We're now down to Pledge of Allegiance. Janet Crandall, you're here. Mr. Whittleton's mother. So would you lead us in the pledge, ma'am? Come on down here, the microphone.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, ma'am. We appreciate that. There are no minutes of previous meetings. Mr. Mayor's report, sir?
Nothing to report.
Okay. Somebody chair's report. There's nothing. We're just going to move on. Committee reports. Mr. Wilton, sir?
You will be hearing a few comments from our Community and Economic Development Committee meeting on Thursday. I think that's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Nothing to report.
Okay. Mr. Steele, sir?
No report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sorry,
all
jumping the gun. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Last week, Mr. Peterson and I attended the Alaska Municipal League Conference in Haines, and this is a meeting of mayors, city managers, city council, and assembly members from communities all over Alaska. And this was really a valuable experience because not only did we have an opportunity to connect with municipal folks from other areas, but we got an idea of the kinds of challenges that people across Alaska are facing and how they're tackling these challenges. So there are a number of topics that were addressed, including Arctic issues, and because, well, even though Alaska, only 1/3 is in the Arctic, any community in Alaska can participate in the Mayor's Council. The Property Assessed Clean Energy, also known as PACE, was discussed, and this is a funding mechanism for green energy and water conservation projects for commercial real estate, and the capital upgrade debts tied to the property rather than the individual. The first net contract came up, and Governor Walker, who was present for Thursday of the conference, indicated that Alaska will be opting in. And this is a contract that's been driven by public safety needs and addresses large-scale incidents and preemption of telecom services for public safety. And there was much discussion, too, about how to repair crumbling infrastructure. There are ports across Alaska, such as the Haines Port, that needs funding, and widespread frustration over what's perceived to be an erosion of local control, with transportation network companies being regulated by the state. So there is a call to revise the state law. Definitely the biggest issue that came up was the state fiscal crisis, and it seems to be swamping all other city issues across the state. And I thought it was noteworthy, too, that in Haines, the 40 stretch of highway from Haines to the Canadian border is no longer being patrolled by the troopers, and so that responsibility has now fallen to the borough of Haines, and somewhat similar to what we're dealing with here. So lastly, there was an ask from the governor. He did request that all cities consider a resolution of support. There's expected a resolution of support to give the legislature permission to develop revenue options, and there's expected to be a special session in October. So thank you, Mr. Chair. Hope I didn't go over the allocated
Great.
time by too much.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that.
I was happy
Glad you
to
went
attend.
Mr. Dunbar, sir.
No report.
Mr. Croft, sir.
Public Safety Committee will be meeting on September 6th, Wednesday, September 6th, from 11 to 12:30.
Mr. Peterson, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Ethics and Election Committee, which typically would be meeting tomorrow at noon, that meeting has been postponed a week to August 30th at noon, and we're going to be meeting at our new election center on 619 East Ship Creek Avenue. We actually received shipment of our vote sorting machine, so we're going to, the committee's going to take get a first chance to get a view of that machine. Also, I was also in Haines at the Municipal League conference last week, and one thing that I'm on the board talked about, and we found out that Kathy Wasserman, the longtime executive director of the Alaska Municipal League, has informed us that this will be her last year. And so as of, I believe it's May 30th or June 1st or something back in some date like that will be her last day. So they're going to be doing a search for a new executive director.
Okay, thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Zabowski, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't have a committee report, but I do have a disclosure to make if I can.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Mr. Chair, by way of disclosure, item 14C on our agenda tonight is an administrative agreement between the municipality of Anchorage and IFF Local 1264. I don't believe I have any personal or financial impact regarding this agreement. This has to do with paramedics, and my husband is not one. And so I don't think that there is, and the administration notes that there's no C, so they believe that the cost impact is already accounted for in the previous CBA that was approved by this body.
I looked at this, Mr. Zabowski, and it's my impression as chair you don't have a conflict of interest in this item, so you're ready to vote on it, ma'am.
Thank you.
Mr. Dyson, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. The audit committee met and to review the P-card audit and abuses thereof. It, I believe, was a consensus, the opinion that there had been several excursions outside of the permitted ways it's used, but none have been done for personal reasons. It appears that the administration and our city manager is on top of the situation, and needed remedial actions are in process, and they're taking it seriously. And the committee agreed to pass it on to us, and I think it's on our agenda for approval tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dyson. That was a good audit meeting. I appreciate letting us be there. Thank you, sir. That completes that. And going back to Chair's report, I did want to tell you that we are going to have 2 work sessions on the 2040 plan. We're going to have one set for the 8th of September and one for the 22nd of September. And the clerk will notify you what time it is. But, you know, I don't know if you remember, but back when we did the 2020, there was a lot of interest in it, as there will be with the 2040 plan, especially your community councils. So just, if they ask, we will have 2 work sessions on it before it gets to the body. What'd you know about that? Let's see, I need a motion from you, Mr. Dunbar, on the addendum to the agenda.
Move to incorporate the addendum to the agenda.
Need a second? Okay. I'll go through it. Item 9A4, Resolution AR 2017-287, a resolution of the Anchorage Municipal Assembly supporting Hunger Action Month and encouraging the elimination of hunger in Anchorage, Alaska. Item 9B2, under Resolutions for Action, Other, Resolution AR 2017-284, a resolution of the Anchorage Municipal Assembly confirming its approval of renewals of the marijuana establishment license approved by Assembly Memorandums AM 570, 2017, and AM 591, 2017A. And there's an accompanying Assembly Memorandum AIM 107, 2017. Item 9B3, Resolution AR 2017-282, a resolution of the Anchorage Municipal Assembly directing that each municipal marijuana establishment renewal application for license being renewed for the first time shall be set for public hearing with a sunset date of December 31st, 2020. Item 9B4, Resolution Air 2017-285, a resolution of the Anchorage Municipal Assembly approving the renewals of marijuana license for cultivation establishments, Alaska Rustic LLC, number M10239, Green Go LLC, license number 10959, Broken Dirt LLC, doing business as Catalyst Cannabis Company, license number 10284, Isidore, doing business as Isidore, license number 102248, Alaska Leaf, license number M10578, doing business as the Frost Frontier LLC, doing business as the Frost Frontier, license number 10161. Danish Gardens LLC, license number 10310. Pedal 64 LLC, license number 10174. And AK Gold LLC, doing business as Fuzzy Buzz, license number 10293, stating the Assembly is not objection to the renewal of the State of Alaska marijuana license numbers 10239, 10959, 10284, 10248, 10578, 10310, 10174, and 10293 for the same establishments, respectively, and authorizing the municipal clerk to take action. Turning an Arm, Mountain View, Midtown, Taku, Campbell, Sparrowwood, Abbott Loop, Government Hill, Community Councils. There's an accompanying Assembly memorandum. Information on with it too. It's AIM 105 2017. On the backside, we've got 9B5 resolutions for actions. Resolution AR 2017-286, resolution of the Anchorage Municipal Assembly approving the renewals of marijuana licenses for retail establishments, Alaska Buds LLC, license number M10094, AK Frost, license number M10866, RNS Enterprises, license doing business as the Herbal Cash, license number M10126, Dankerage LLC, doing with license number 10306, Alaska Sense LLC, doing business Cannabis Alaska, license number 10236, AM Frontier Inc., doing business as Delight, license number 10267, Alaska Leaf LLC, doing license number 10577, and AK Gold, license number doing business as Alaska Fuzzy Buzz, license number 10864, stating the Assembly's not objection to renewal of State of Alaska marijuana license numbers 10094, 10866, 10126, 10306, 10236, 10267, 10577, and 10864 for the same establishments, respectively, and authorize the municipal clerk to take certain actions, and the community council are listed on there. There's also item 9B6, a resolution AR 2017-289, a resolution of the Anchorage Municipal Assembly approving the renewal of a municipal marijuana retail establishment license for Enlighten Alaska, LLC, license number M10021, stating the Assembly's non-objection to the renewal of State of Alaska marijuana license number 10021, and authorizing the municipal clerk to take certain action from the Spenard Community Council. Item 9F6, ordinances resolution for introduction. Ordinance AO 2017-118, an ordinance amending the Anchorage Municipal Code, Section 11.70.060, to update the Anchorage Public Transit System's fare structure. Public Transportation Department. Public hearing request on 9/12/2017. This is accompanying a memorandum, AM 609/2017. And then we've got item 12A on here. Appearance request, Women's Commission regarding 2016 annual report. Is there anything else that needs to be added to the addendum agenda? Seeing nothing, let's vote on it. This will vote to incorporate the addendum to the agenda. Please vote. Pretty cool. I'm sorry, it's a new system, we're saying that for the first time. Okay, that is approved. And as you said, it was going to be a little different, huh?
Yeah.
So do we have to pay for this, or is this free?
There was no charge.
Gee, we should tell SAP on that, shouldn't we?
Fair question.
Sorry. Okay, I need a motion on the consent agenda as amended.
Move to approve the consent
Second.
agenda as amended.
Moved and seconded, okay. Let's see, let's start with you, Mr. Dyson, first. Anything you wish to pull, sir?
No.
Ms. Nabowski, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to pull a number of items, starting with 9 Alpha 1 for reading, 9 Bravo 4, 9 Bravo 5, 9 Bravo 6, and 9 Delta 8.
You said 9B6 and what? 9 Delta what?
9A1, 9B4, 9B5, 9B6, and 9 Delta 8.
Okay. So you don't have to worry about that one, huh? Mr. Peterson, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No items this evening.
Mr. Croft, sir.
I'm going to be reading 9 Alpha 2. Maybe somebody else was going to pull it, but I'll go ahead and pull
Why don't you
9
pull it
Alpha
anyway?
2. Yeah.
9A2.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Dunbar, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Nabowski has pulled most of the ones I was going to, but let's also pull 9 Alpha 3 for reading, 9 Bravo 3, and 9 Foxtrot 5.
9A3, 9B3, 9F5.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, sir.
9A2.
Mr. France?
Oh,
I'm
no
sorry,
item.
I got to get to her before I get to you.
I know, I'm sorry. Ladies first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No items to pull for me.
Mr. Steele, sir.
9A2, please, for reading.
Are you reading
You two can arm wrestle out which one's going to do it. Mr. Rivera, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Pulling item 9 Alpha 4 for reading. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Willington, sir.
You know, I have quite a list that was already slated to be pulled, but I'd like to request that we do, as we go through, we do 9D8 prior to the other marijuana-related ones, and then 9B3 after 9D8. Just puts things in a logical order.
He's talking about this issue and changing the order, so.
Make sure we've done.
He's doing something. Yeah.
I can speak to that if
We're
you'd
not
like.
going to move 9D8 at all.
Right, that was my understanding, so I'd like to just clear the decks on that, and then 9B3 should really precede the other ones, I think, which probably would anyway. But.
That's probably not going to work because Forrest is going to move those after 14.
Okay, Forrest will move those after
So you
14.
need to let him know that.
That's not going to work. We have, you want to tell him, go ahead, Barbara.
Through the chair, Mr. Weddleton, it's my understanding that Assembly Council reminded the Assembly, the Clerk's Office, and the Assembly leadership that item 14G allows continued operation for some of the applicants for renewal licenses after August 31st. And Assembly Council recommends not renewing those applications until after you have passed 14G. So we have asked Mr. Dunbar to make a motion to change the order of the day to take up the marijuana license renewals. It's item 9B4, 9B5, and 9B6
Which is what Mr. Buster pulled.
after 14G.
Yeah, that's kind of the direction I was heading
Okay.
there, but I do think we should do 9B3 regarding the public hearings before we do those 3, 4, and 5, because depending on how 9B3 goes, that will kind of direct us on those other three.
Actually, that's the one where we
Well-
worked on the effective date on it.
Mr. Chairman, can I address that?
Go ahead.
Mr. Welton, so I pulled 9B3 with the purpose of amending the effective date so that we could pass those renewals and it wouldn't conflict with 9 Bravo 3.
That's fine. It should just be done before we do those
Yeah.
renewals, is all.
But
Then that's
he's
works for
got
me.
an amendment.
Yeah, that's fine. That's, is that the
Do you have
eclipse?
a ball that's going to come down there rotating or what, Barbara?
I do not know what's happening. We have a...
We have a technical issue.
Okay, who didn't pay the electric bill?
Okay. I have some of the lights on, but not all of them. I think we have an issue right there.
That's right, the administration's in the dark. They can stay there.
There we go.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's go through those items that were pulled. Ready, Barbara?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Ms. Dombrowski pulled 9A1, 9B4, 9B5, 9B6, 9B8.
9D.
9D8, sorry. I'll make it a big D. Okay, then Eric pulled item 9A2. Mr. Dunn pulled, sorry. Forrest pulled 9A3, 9B3, 9F5. Mr. Steele pulled 9A2, he's reading it. Then Felix pulled 9A4. And I think we've got everything on here except Mr. Wilton pulled 9D3. If nobody else pulled it, he's got it on there.
I think he pulled 9B3.
D3, I know. Right there.
9D3,
Yeah,
correct.
not BD. So we're ready to go?
Did you get 9 Bravo 3? I think?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just want to make sure we're both agreeing on what was pulled. Okay. My screen's not still ready to let me.
Okay, so let's see. I need to just one minute, please.
Ready? Please vote on the balanced consent agenda that was not pulled. That was approved. That's odd. We went with green for yes, red for no. Huh? Now we're going to see who has color problems. Okay. First one that was pulled by Ms. Dombrowski was 9A1.
Move to approve.
Ask unanimous. See no objection. That's approved by the body. Ms. Dombrowski?
Is someone here to receive Ella Craig's citation? And Mr. Steele is going to be presenting. A resolution of the Anchorage Municipal Assembly honoring Ella Craig for her outstanding service to Alaskans. Whereas on June 17, 2017, Alaska lost one of its shining stars when Miss Ella Craig passed away at the age of 97. Whereas in 1953, Ella Craig moved to Alaska as the first social worker in the state to establish a social services program for the Bureau of Indian Affairs. For 33 years, Ella traveled throughout the state and was responsible for the creation of many resources available today. Whereas Ella's broad professional experience spanned work in public and private sectors as a social worker, supervisor, administrator, and consultant, and which led her to be an important mentor to many graduate social work students. And whereas Ella's involvement with senior issues inspired her to serve with multiple advocacy groups, including many years serving on the Older Persons Action Group, the Pioneer Homes Advisory Board, AARP, the Alaska Commission on Aging, and as a commissioner of the Anchorage Senior Citizens Advisory Commission from 1994 to 2001, and a second term from 2005 until her passing in 2017. And whereas she was honored in 2006 as a recipient of the Ron Hammett Award for Outstanding Service to Seniors and Their Families, now therefore the Anchorage Assembly honors Ella Craig for a lifetime of community service to Alaskans, passed and approved by the Anchorage Assembly this 22nd day of August 2017.
Mr. Croft, you pull the next one. It's item 9A2, Resolution Air 2017-279.
Move to approve.
In Alpha 2.
And it was seconded. Ask unanimous consent by the body. Not seeing any objection. That's approved. Mr. Croft, are you reading or who's reading this?
I'm reading. Mr. Steele is presenting. Is there anyone here to receive the citation for Terry Lamberson? Oh, great. Come on up and
Mr. Steele?
Mr. Steele, you're reading?
Okay. Who's presenting then?
Mr. Weddleton is reading and Mr.
Croft is presenting?
There you
Okay.
go. This is a resolution of the Anchorage Municipal Assembly recognizing and honoring Terry Lamberson for 24 years of service with the municipality of Anchorage. Whereas Terry Lamberson began working for the municipality of Anchorage in August of 1993, and whereas Terry's career has spanned the administrations of 7 mayors, Tom Fink, Rick Mystrom, George Wirch, Mark Begich, Acting Mayor Matt Clayman, Dan Sullivan, and Mayor Ethan Berkowitz. And whereas Terry began her municipal career as a cartographer in the Property Appraisal Department in 1993, and whereas in 2001 Terry transferred to the Planning Department as a cartographer, and whereas in 2006 Terry transferred to the Information Technology Department as a GIS Technician 2, and whereas in 2013 Terry transferred to the Project Management and Engineering Department and as a GIS Technician 3. And whereas Terry earned the Geographic Information System Professional Certification from the GIS Certification Institute, and whereas Terry has been a subject matter expert for GIS mapping and spatial analysis, and whereas Terry has developed the Cemetery Web Map Historical Properties Mapping Project and the PM&E Benchmark Web Application, and whereas Terry has been lead GIS analyst for the Planning Department, tasked with working on the Land Use Plan map, Wetlands Management Plan, Bicycle Plan, zoning updates, and the marijuana mapping effort, and whereas Terry has represented the municipality with the Emergency Operations Center and served on numerous committees, and whereas she will be retired from her position as of August 25, 2017. Now therefore, the Anchorage Assembly hereby recognizes and honors Terry Lamberson for her devoted service to the municipality of Anchorage and its employees, passed and approved by the Anchorage Assembly this 22nd day of August 2017.
Ma'am, you could talk to us if you want.
Got no speeches tonight.
Okay. Next one is item 9A3, Resolution Air 2017-280, a resolution of the Anchorage Municipal Assembly recognizing August 26, 2017 as Women's Equality Day.
Move to approve.
Second.
Ask unanimous consent. See no objection. That is approved.
So I'll be reading this.
You're reading it. Who's presenting it?
Great.
Is there somebody here to
Suzanne's
receive
fine.
it?
Yes.
Okay.
Good. All right. A resolution of the Anchorage Municipal Assembly recognizing August 26, 2017 as Women's Equality Day. Whereas in 1971, the U.S. Congress designated every August 26 as Women's Equality Day, thus commemorating the 1920 passage of the 19th Amendment to the United States Constitution, granting women the right to vote. And whereas equal participation at the ballot box was the culmination of decades spent organizing, protesting, and advocating for women's rights. And whereas the passage of the 19th Amendment paved the way for women to participate as volunteers, voters, candidates, and leaders in our democracy. And whereas members of the Anchorage Women's Commission are appointed by the mayor and confirmed by the Assembly. The commission exists to advise the mayor and the Assembly on matters pertaining to the status of women. And whereas the Anchorage Women's Commission 2017 work plan includes several areas of focus, including gender wage equality, public safety, women's health, and encouraging women to pursue leadership in elected positions. And whereas the Anchorage Women's Commission partners with organizations across the municipality that work on behalf of women's equality. Now, therefore, the Anchorage Assembly resolves to join in celebrating Women's Equality Day and recognizing the work of the Anchorage Women's Commission and partnering organizations, passed and approved by the Anchorage Assembly this 22nd day of August 2017.
My turn. Thank you. Good afternoon, members of the Assembly Body and Mayor Berkowitz. I'm Amy Chavot, Chairwoman of the Anchorage Women's Commission, and I am joined here tonight by Commissioners Hall, Durr, Khalifi, Tarr, and Halterman. We thank you for your recognition of August 26th as Women's Equality Day and appreciate that all 11 members of the body and the mayor have signed on to support this resolution. As you're aware, August 26th was selected as Women's Equality Day in commemoration of the passage of the 19th Amendment, giving women the right to vote. Equal participation at the ballot was the culmination of decades spent organizing, protesting, and advocating for women's rights, and the 19th Amendment paved the way for women to participate as volunteers, voters, candidates, and leaders in our democracy, and we know that much more work remains. In 2017, women hold just 30% of the elected seats in Alaska's state government and a woeful 2 seats on the Assembly Body. We thank you for your recognition of this important day, and we look forward to sharing updates with you on this work as we move forward. Good job. Yeah. Thank
you. Next item is polls item 9A4, Resolution AR 2017-287, resolution of the Anchorage Municipal Assembly supporting Hunger Action Month and encouraging the elimination of hunger in Anchorage, Alaska. Mr. Rivera, you pulled that one, sir.
Move to approve.
Second.
Ask unanimous. See no objection, that's approved. Mr. Rivera? Who is
Mr. Chair, I am reading. I don't know.
Presenting? Anybody? Okay. Well, if they're waiting for food, I'm not having it tonight, so they may wait in a while. It's Hunger Day.
A resolution of the Anchorage Municipal Assembly supporting Hunger Action Month and encouraging the elimination of hunger in Anchorage, Alaska. Whereas Alaskans' health and well-being is paramount to the bright future of our state, and whereas hunger is a condition of poverty that affects all regions throughout the state, Food Bank of Alaska and roughly 225 partner agencies around the state are dedicated to fighting hunger by providing temporary relief assistance and working with agencies to discover and eliminate barriers to providing food to those most in need. And whereas food insecurity is defined as the inability to procure a sufficient amount of affordable, nutritious food on a regular basis. Sadly, children comprise over 1/3 of those who do not know where their next meal will come from. Food insecurity can have detrimental effects on an individual's physical and mental health, especially children, hindering development and the ability to live a full and active life. And whereas, according to Map the Meal Gap, 36,900 Municipality of Anchorage residents are food insecure. And whereas research suggests that eating quality meals, especially breakfast, increases test scores, decreases school violence, and lowers the rate of obesity. And whereas Alaska's Anti-Hunger Network assists Alaskans in need through voluntary participation of members of the food industry, faith-based, tribal, public, and nonprofit organizations, and private citizens, often partnered with state and federal governments. This informal network collects donations, distributes food, and provides relief to thousands of hungry Alaskans every day. And whereas recognizing the struggle many face each day to put food on the table for their families, Alaskans are encouraged to find out how they can contribute their time, efforts, and resources to ending hunger in their communities. Now, therefore, we, the Anchorage Assembly, the Anchorage resolves that September 2017 is recognized as Hunger Action Month in Anchorage and urge all Alaskans to take action to help reduce hunger across our great state by volunteering and engaging with their local food bank, donating when possible, and to be aware, respectful, and compassionate of those around them who may be in need. A small act of kindness can make a big difference. Passed and approved by the Anchorage Assembly this 22nd day of August 2017.
Thank you very much.
We've made a lot of changes with child's hunger in the schools because we've now got most of the schools providing breakfast and lunch for many kids. And they don't have to worry about, can I afford it, or being humiliated. It's a better system we've got now, and appreciate the federal government sending the money to us to do that. One of these days, you should have all the elementary schools, not just some of them, but all of them, and secondary schools where they've got that service provided to the kids. Let's hope it happens. The next item that was pulled was item 9B3. Mr. Dunbar, you pulled that. sir.
Move to approve.
I need a second.
Second.
Okay. Mr. Dunbar.
So, in conversations with the clerk and with the chair, we intend to move the next three items after 14G, and they've all been pulled off of the consent agenda, so they wouldn't be being passed contemporaneously with this, which means that basically they couldn't be passed tonight, is my understanding, because we didn't set them for public hearing. But our intention, I don't believe the intention of the sponsors, and perhaps they can correct me on this, was to prevent those items from going forward tonight. So for that reason, I'm offering an amendment to the effective date on line 22 of the second page, where it says, upon passage and approval, to change that to after the 23rd of August, 2017, so basically after tomorrow, so that we can go ahead and move those items forward tonight.
Could I get a second on that amendment? Any objection to that amendment?
I do.
You object to it? Let's bring it up for a vote then.
Well,
Can I
hold on, let's
speak
have a
to it?
little. What's that?
Well, can I speak for a moment?
Go ahead, sir.
Okay, I understand, I guess the question to the sponsors is, my understanding is that throughout the process of developing our rules for marijuana, and until we changed the rules, I believe in March, we had been telling people that they would have an opportunity for public hearing for renewals. And the intent of this is to, and we changed the rules, I think it was March or April, so that it was not required. So I believe the sense of the sponsors is that we really have a duty to have a public hearing on the early, the licenses that we approved early on. So if we change this effective date, it almost makes this thing, it makes this whole thing irrelevant. There's no point really passing it, because any license that we approve since March, we knew would not have a public hearing at renewal. It would be on the consent agenda and move forward. So really, for this to be effective and a sensible resolution at all, the effective date needs to be now, and we need to have public hearings for the licenses that we're here to will approve later on. That's my statement. It's sort of as a question. Maybe Ms. Domboski could correct me if I'm wrong.
Before we get to Ms. Domboski, the chair has given me the gavel, and I believe he wants to speak.
Okay.
And the purpose of this, AR, is basically to complete what we promised the public.
Mm-hmm.
When we were writing the marijuana laws, we told the public, meeting after meeting, after the first license, they're going to come here for renewal, and we'll let you speak on the renewal. And somewhere along the way, that got lost.
Mm-hmm.
This is simply an attempt to take care of that problem. And I've got no problem personally with these getting through. That's just, I wish we didn't have to do it that way, but I'm not going to tell these people they're going to come back in here. So I've got no problem putting the effective date tomorrow on this. I personally don't have a problem with it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Here you go.
Other comments from assembly members? Where are you at? Oh, there you are. Ms. Domboski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I recognize the reality of sometimes scheduling, and I think from the beginning this was an oversight with us not setting these for public hearing. Frankly, I don't know why it's so complicated. It should, in my opinion, it shouldn't take a resolution, an ordinance, or anything else. It should just be scheduled for a public hearing. But, that's for another day. But I think Mr. Weddleton is right. Now, I recognize also the power of numbers, and I think this resolution is better than nothing. I have a real problem with the fact that you look at our agenda, there's over 20 licenses that are up for renewal tonight, and we've had this conversation at least at 2 other assembly meetings when I've brought up the history and the promise we made to the public for a public hearing, and somehow, it still hasn't quite made it to the public hearing process, and there's a huge number. Like I said, I counted in 98, I think there was 18, just in 98 that are up for renewal. And at the last meeting, we were told if we set them for a public hearing, that 2 weeks, it wasn't going to do anything. It wouldn't hurt anything. Whatever happens with this resolution, I want it to pass, whether it's with today's effective date or a later effective date, because I think it fulfills our promise we made to the public when we were drafting the laws. But any licenses that come up for their first renewal, I'll just tell you, because I think our promise we made to the public on such an issue that was so divided in the community, basically it was 51% voted yes. I think we have an obligation to fulfill those promises if we have the ability to do so, and I think we certainly do. So if we don't have a public hearing on them, I'm just going to be a no vote. I'll just tell you that, because I feel that promise and the commitment we made to the public far outweighs any scheduling problems we have here with the Assembly. And I think it's silly, because I think, quite frankly, this entire drama could be avoided just by setting it for a public hearing, which probably will take an extra 3 minutes. It's my 2 cents. But whatever the body comes down on this, I won't support the date change just simply because I want it to affect all of them. But I understand Mr. Dunbar's motivation. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Wilton, sir?
He already
Okay.
spoke.
Mr. Dunbar, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I support the underlying resolution, and I support the thinking behind it. I think Ms. Domboski's right in this case, and Mr. Trainee as well, that we did make this commitment. However, I do think with these particular licenses, there's a question of equity to me and fairness. We made some clerical errors, and I know that wasn't the reason that Ms. Domboski pulled them. That was the reason I was going to pull them, because we had to sub in some other resolutions. But, basically, without changing the effective date, what we've done is made these license holders get unusually unlucky through a fault of our own. So I think it's just a question for me of equity and fairness, and that we amend it, and then we pass it, and then we have a changed policy when people on notice going forward.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from Assembly members? If not, please vote on the amendment in front of us. This will amend this AR. Okay, that did not pass. Tied 5-5. Okay, any other amendment on this? If not, then we're going to be voting on item 9B3, AR 2017-282. Madam Clerk, you ready?
No, I'm not quite ready.
Okay. It's all right, Barbara.
Just
Mr. Wilton?
just a question. So now we have
The original
the unamended,
document in front of us.
and the effective date is tonight.
Effective date immediately.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Ma'am?
Mr. Weddleton, I think, was going to give the community report on this one.
Oh,
That's appropriate. Go ahead, Mr. Wilton.
oh, actually, thank you. I actually had a question, too. We did discuss this at the Community Economic Development Committee, and I don't have with me the copy we looked at there. We did discuss some of the wording that we felt the wording, I think the word each was in there, and it suggested that they would have to come as separate items. And I wondered, was this changed so that it would allow all of them to be, you did make that change? Okay.
The Assembly Council changed it. What Mr. Weddleton's referring to, if you look at Section 1, it's on page 2. In line 19, originally it had said each license would be set for a public hearing, and the goal of the committee and the Assembly was not to bog down every single license, but for the clerk's office to be able to group them in groups of 10 or 20, whatever the clerk deems is appropriate, and they'll group them all as one public hearing. You don't have to have 10 separate hearings for every single license, but you can have a group of them. And if for some reason you have one that draws a crowd, you can bifurcate it and deal with that license separately.
Okay, good, thank you. Clarified that. So the Community Economic Development Committee did recommend approval of this with that change. Thank you.
We'll take a break. Chris Constant wants to call in, but we don't have anything scheduled. So can we do that about 15 minutes?
In 15 minutes, we can take a break.
Sorry.
Sorry, we have a technical issue going on. Okay, let's vote on the, let's see. John, do you have anything, sir?
Oh, I'm good, thank you.
Okay. Dean?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not sure if everybody has the same documents I do in my packet. I have the AR that still has the language unchanged. So I want to make sure that we're voting on an AR that doesn't have that last phrase on page 2, line 20. for each license renewal application. That shouldn't be here, but it's in my copy that I have in front of me.
Can we read it online somewhere?
Mine doesn't have it.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Mr. Dombowski.
Is that all, Dean?
Yes.
Ms. Dombowski, your next man.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, I appreciate leadership's willingness to review this, and this is just something really just sets up some sort of simple process. It really shouldn't be that complicated, but to re-solidify to the public that, in fact, we do take our promises to the public seriously, and as I said, I don't think this is going to be super complicated. I think it's simply going to be like a lot of public hearings you'll see tonight, where nobody testifies. I think it's going to be an extra 3 minutes, but I think it fulfills our obligation. So I would appreciate support on this measure. Thank you.
Mr. Whittleton, sir?
Sorry. I also urge support on this, and I came around a little bit slower. I think that we made some changes in March and April that did not require public hearing on renewals, and I think that is actually a good system. It would be that if we had complaints, if community councils complained, that would trigger a public hearing. But I was convinced by Mr. Trainey and Dombowski that during the writing of the laws, where I was not here then, it was very consistent that there would be a public hearing for renewals, and we made that promise consistently. So I'm willing to go, and this does expire in 2020. So for the first few years, we will go to what was stated as we were developing these laws over a period of, I believe, was a good year, where there would be a public hearing for renewals. And I agree it won't be a huge amount of work. I don't expect it would be. So I appreciate Ms. Dombowski's bringing this up and came around. Thank you.
The chair has given me the gavel. Mr. Trainey?
Thank you, Mr. Dunbar. Just I would ask the Assembly's support on this. This completes the promise we made to the public when we started this process. And I've sat through so many of these hearings on alcohol. There may be 5 or 6 on there. If we have a problem, we pull one off and have further discussion on it. And like he said, this is going to expire in 2020. It only deals with your first renewal. It completes the promise we told the public. And it's not going to be that big of a deal, so we would appreciate your support on this item. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Croft, sir.
Yeah, representing an area where a lot of these have come in and where there has been some concern, but there hasn't been a lot of problems. In fact, really no significant ones to date. It's important, and sometimes I think when we cut these corners, we undermine public confidence. This process that we spent a lot of time on is going well, and we've probably spent more time debating whether to have public hearing on it than it would take to have the public hearings. But I think at some point it just, this is a confidence builder for those who have concerns in the area. I think those concerns as we work through this get worked out. But it's important to do, and then the sunset happens in 2020 and we go back to just notify us if you need it. So an appropriate process. Thank you for bringing it up.
Thank you, Mr. Croft. Any comments from Assembly members? If not, please, go ahead. Technical problems. I'm going to have to get you an abacus, Madam Clerk.
Need to do this anymore because now that the other one has passed, these can't be passed today anyway. Right? I don't think we'll have to ask the clerk out. We can we? No. They have to be set for public hearing.
Okay. All right, Mr. Chair.
We all right, ma'am?
You may vote.
Okay.
You need to hit the start voting button.
I know.
Okay.
That I can still do. That's manual.
Great.
Please vote. Motion failed. Okay, that failed.
No, it didn't.
No,
That was the amendment.
Okay, hold on. There's 10 of us here. So 5 vote for it and 5 vote against it.
I need,
Can we,
Let's take a break for a second while the clerk
I
figures
don't know
out.
what
we might
has
have to
been
vote
voted.
for it.
So here's the motion.
vote early for this.
We're going, I just want her to finish what she's doing. And I'll do an oral vote.
Do you think it was better here?
Yeah, because that's what we have.
I mean, there's,
I know. Barbara? Barbara,
Yes.
can we take a manual vote and then come back and do this?
We could, Mr. Trainee, I think we're going to be off the rest of the meeting if we
Okay.
do that. But would you
Okay.
like to do a roll call? Let's just.
I would like to do a roll call vote on this one. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Please do a manual roll call vote on this one.
Mr. Weddleton,
Yes.
Mr. Rivera,
Yes.
Mr. Steele,
Yes.
Ms. LaFrance,
Yes.
Mr. Trainee,
Yes.
Mr. Dunbar,
yes.
Mr. Croft,
Yes.
Mr. Peterson,
Yes.
Ms. Demboski,
Yes.
Mr. Dyson.
Yes.
The motion fails.
Much like the last election, this one was approved. We need to take a couple minutes break,
Yeah,
Barbara.
we would appreciate that, I think, to try and figure out what's.
We're going to take a couple
happening with
minutes
the
break. We try to
system.
figure out what's going on with the computer system because manual, we did it 10-0. Assembly members return to the seats, please. Appreciate it. You're comfortable, aren't you? I love computer malfunctions. We're now into item 9B4. Mr. Dunbar?
So I guess first I need to move to approve.
Now what you want to do is move it to public hearing
Okay, yeah,
on
sorry.
August 30th at starting 6 p.m. in
So,
chambers.
right, so we're going to move the public hearing date. So I move to postpone it until August 30th at 6 p.m.
Here in the chamber.
We're going to have a special assembly meeting here in the chambers.
Second.
Moving to second. Is there any objection to the body? Not seeing any, that's accomplished.
Okay, just could you, it's gonna take me a couple minutes.
Okay, let's give her a second. We need to get you a pen that you can just drag them. You all right? You okay, Barbara?
Okay, I have a motion.
And I asked for unanimous consent, and there was no objection, so that's approved.
Let me catch up with you. We'll see what happens here. Okay.
Okay. Forrest, I need a motion on you to move item 9B5 to the 30th of August, 6 p.m., sir. 9B5, sir.
So I move to set the public hearing date for 9 Bravo 5 to August 30th at 6 p.m.
Second.
Second. Ask unanimous consent. See no objection, Madam Clerk. That is approved. Next one is item 9B6, sir. Same thing.
I move to set item 9B6 for public hearing on August 30th at 6 p.m.
Second.
Any objection to the body? Not seeing any, Madam Clerk. That's approved also.
We probably need to take another recess, so I can get the phone set up for Mr. Constant, if you wouldn't mind.
Okay. The clerk has asked me to take another small break. Mr. Constant would like to call in from wherever he's at. They need to set the bridge up.
I'll ask and clarify.
So let's take a quick
Mr.
break.
Chair, before we do that break, I just want to clarify. So we handled items 9 Bravo 4, Bravo 5, and Bravo 6.
That's set for public
Okay.
hearing on the 30th at 6 p.m. here in the chambers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
What?
Yes.
Yes,
What did he say? Okay.
we got it.
Wait, why don't we do, he was calling for 9 Delta.
No. I don't know why Constant's calling in, but he wants to.
At the moment of personal privilege, there's two attaboys I want to give out. One, I want to give out to Mike Abbott and AWWU. As many of you came in, you saw this glorious fountain out there with the water very dramatically shooting. And I was contacted a while back by the daughter of who that fountain is named for. And man, I got to tell you, Mr. Abbott, AWU got on it very quickly, and they fixed it, and it's working, and it looks beautiful. So I just wanted to say truly thank you. When I called Dawn Linton Warren, and I let her know it was going, she immediately broke into tears over the phone of joy. So, you know, the little things you do sometimes really do make a huge impact on someone's life. And I just want to say thank you for that. And my second comment, though we have delayed the marijuana renewals for a week, and we're going to have a special meeting to deal with those, through our packet, if you were reading item 9D8, you saw in there was times where there was minor changes and the department director was able to just sign off on those changes. I think that mechanism worked exactly the way the Community and Economic Development Committee planned for it to do, in that rather than having this tiny little change and have to start all over again in the process, you could have a little change, go to the director, explain it to him, he could look at it, they could sign it off, and we saw more than one application, at least one application that has gone through that process. So our goal was not to make it as hard as we could on every marijuana industry, but some of these common sense changes, just let somebody sign off on it. So that was actually evidenced in our packet tonight, and I wanted to give the planning department, Hal, I know you're out there, you probably are the one that signed off on it. I wanted to give the planning department really the kudos for using the department director discretion exactly how we intended, and to be working proactively with these businesses. So those were my two attaboys that I was going to save for my assembly comments at the end of the night, though I think those people would have been gone. So I thank you for letting me do that.
Thank you, ma'am. How's it going?
We have, Mr. Rivera has communicated the number to Mr. Constant, and we will see what happens.
Okay.
So, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Rivera, so I suspect that our colleague is trying to call in to speak to the land use plan.
Which is not for public hearing tonight.
Well, we have pulled F5. I assume that's what he wants to talk about. I doubt he wants to talk about the fact that we need to let 9D8 expire because it's a mislabeled as an AM instead of an AR.
Well, it will expire because we pulled it if you don't take any action.
That's what I'm saying. We're going to pull it. We're not going to move it so that it can be replaced by the other items.
Thank you. If I could clarify, Mr. Chair, Mr. Dunbar, at this point, Mr. Constant has not given any specific item that he is interested in speaking on. So I believe we can move the meeting forward, and when he is on the phone, he will join us.
Let us know if you would, please. We're down to item 9F5 that was pulled.
No.
Sure.
Are we just going to, so for 9D8, we're just going to pass over it?
Just pass over
People
it.
understand why we're doing that?
It dies for lack of action.
We're not going to move it because it was mislabeled, so
Yes.
it dies for lack of action.
There's nothing to do with it. We have item 9F5 on here now. I think you pulled that, Mr. Dunbar, 9F5.
Move to approve.
You're setting it for
No.
public hearing.
I'm sorry.
Your public hearing, and you want to
That's
set the date, a different date.
Yes, yes. So I move to change the public hearing date from September 12th to September 26th.
Do we have an introduction on the floor, too?
No, this is setting it for public hearing.
Yeah, it's never been introduced.
Yeah,
That's my point.
I know. So your motion is to set this for public hearing
Yes.
on the 26th?
It's a move to set the public hearing for September 26th. Yes, thank you.
Okay, is there a second and a third? Because this is an
I'll
item
second.
that requires three. Is there a third? So we got three, Barbara?
I have Mr. Dunbar, Mr. Weddleton, and, okay.
Mr. Croft, okay. And don't forget, we've got two work sessions planned on item 9F5.
Mr. Chair, I hate to be a stickler on
Go ahead,
the
ma'am.
technicalities of this, but the motion on the thing is a motion to improve. It should be a motion to introduce with a public hearing
The motion should
date.
have been the motion to reduce.
Yeah, I just want to make sure it's clear, so when they go back to read the transcript, it's not a motion to approve, it's a motion to introduce.
Do you have that, Barbara?
Yes.
Okay. Clerk's got it. So we're fine. It's a motion to reduce, set for public hearing the 26th of September. We've got two public hearings set on this thing. Any objection to the introduction of this item? Mr. Whittleton?
I want to clarify, we have two work sessions. Do
Yes.
you have the dates on those?
Yes, got them earlier to you. It's September 8th and September 22nd.
All right, thank you.
Is there any objection to the introduction of that item? Not seeing any objection to that item. It's introduced. We're down to now, Barbara.
I believe you are done with the consent agenda.
Okay. No, we don't have anybody else speaking to us on first to be heard, do we?
So you are here. And I believe Mr. Constant is on the phone.
Mr. Constant, are you on the phone now? Then let's go on through the agenda until we hear from him, why don't we? Next item in front is item 11A. Item 11A is information memorandum AM 85-2017, Internal Audit Report 2017-07, Annual Municipal Procurement Card Review.
Move to accept.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on this item? Not seeing any. That is approved by the body. And thank you, Mr. Dyson, for having a very good work session on that. My thanks to Internal Auditor. You did a great job on that. Over the years, I've seen P-card studies that have just curled your hair if I had any. But they were terrible. This one was a lot better. We only had 1 or 2 questions on it, and the administration's working on it, so we appreciate your efforts. And so next year we'll see it again in front of us because we need to do these annually. So thank you. Let's see. What time is it, Barbara? We're good. We're going forward.
Got it, I'm ready.
Okay. Next item in front of us is item 14A, Resolution Air 2017-265, a resolution of the Municipality of Anchorage, Alaska, confirming levying assessments for the water special assessment improvement within levy upon collection luck roll 2017-W-1, say data payment and providing for penalties and interest in the event of delinquency from AWW. It's coming in a semi-memorandum AM 545-2017. Public hearing. This item is now open. Anybody wish to testify, please come forward, state your name, career for the record, and identify what part of town you live in. You have 3 minutes. Anyone at all? Hearing and seeing no one, public hearings closed. What's the wish of the body?
Move to approve.
Moved and seconded. Discussion from assembly members. No discussion, so let's vote. Okay, there.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, please vote. That is approved by the body. No, it didn't go 5-5. Pretty good catch, though, Eric. I thought it was going to. That was approved by the body. Next item in front of us is item 14B, Resolution Air 2017-266, a resolution of the Municipality of Anchorage, Alaska, confirming levying assessments for the sewer special improvements within I got to get the right page. Levy upon connection luck roll 17-S-2, saying data payment and providing for penalties and interest in the event of delinquency. Anchorage Waste and Water Utility. It's company memorandum AM 546-2017. There's a resolution with it 2017-266S, a resolution of the Municipality of Anchorage, Alaska, confirming upon levy assessments for the sewer special improvements within levy upon connection luck roll 17-S-2, saying date of payment and providing for penalties and interest in the event of delinquency from Anchorage Waste and Water Utility. Public hearing on this item is now open. Anybody wish to testify, please come forward. Jake J. McCurry for the record. Spell your last name if you would, please. Tell us what part of town you live in. Anyone at all? Hearing and saying no, public testimony is closed. What's the wish of the body?
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion from assembly members. Yes, your motion was to move the S version. Thank you, Mr. Dunbar.
It's an S version.
Please vote. That was approved unanimously by the body.
Mr. Chair, before we move on to the next item, I have a quick point of order. It's come to my attention that we have missed the presentation by the Women's Commission, which was item 12A.
Yes, we picked that one up.
Thank you.
Just came to me. Thank you. That last one was approved. We'll now go to the parents' request, then we'll come back. We've got Women's Commission regarding 2016 annual report. Who's here to talk to us about that? Welcome to the meeting.
Thank you, Chair Trainee and members of the Assembly. I'm Tiffany Hall. I am a member of the Women's Commission. Thanks for having us up a second time. We just wanted to let you know about the annual report that we submitted. And throughout the past year in 2016, the Women's Commission remained active and followed kind of a burst of new life that we had in 15. We got a lot of new Assembly members, many of whom are here or were here tonight. We hosted a panel discussion and a community discussion on SB 91. We have volunteered on committees and attended community events on behalf of the Women's Commission with the goal of ensuring there's the perspective of women at the table, as well as learning what else is going on in the community. We are operating at nearly a full commission. We need one more member to be at 9 members, and we developed a strategic plan to complete our work in the coming 3 years, some of which Assemblymember Dunbar touched on earlier with the resolution. This year, we plan to encompass several areas of focus related to women's issues, encouraging women to pursue leadership, advisory, and elected positions. So thanks very much to the 2 women who are representing here tonight, and hopefully in the future we can get a little more representation there. Thanks to all the men as well, but you know. So it's our goal to educate and empower more women in Anchorage to engage in civics and to advance to leadership positions. If you have any questions or comments for us, or ever have any kind of thing that the Women's Commission should work on, or anything you'd like us to pursue, please don't hesitate to ask. And thanks very much for your service.
Mr. Rivera has a question or comment. Mr. Rivera?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to thank the Commission for their hard work. I have followed a lot of the work the commissions have done, and I know you guys are one of the most hardworking and really get out in the community, so I want to thank you for that. I also want to put on the record that both my staff and both of my interns right now are women, so women are very well represented on my corner, so thank you.
Through the chair, woohoo!
Any other comments from Assembly members? Thank you for your service, and if there's anything we can do to help you, let us know.
Thank you.
We appreciate your service. Thank you. Okay, we're now going down to item 14C, Resolution Error 2017-263, a resolution approving administrative agreement between the Municipality of Anchorage and International Association of Firefighters, Local 1264, regarding certification of firefighters with paramedic licenses. And the accompanying Assembly Memorandum AM 543, 2017. Public hearing on this item is now open. Anybody wishing to testify, please come forward. State your name clearly for the record. Spell your last name and tell us what part of town you live in. Anyone at all? Having said no, public testimony is closed. What's the wish of the body?
Move to approve.
I need a second.
Second.
Discussion from Assembly members. Ms. Dombowski, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't see anybody here from the fire department, so maybe I'm sure Mr. Abbott can answer. With regard to this, how many of our paramedics are level 2 or 3 MICP?
I don't know, and I don't think the ER staff that's here, I'm looking at them, I don't think they know that off the top of their heads either. We'd be glad to get that information for you.
So one of the reasons I asked that question, Mr. Abbott, is I'm trying to understand if this is a new policy or if this is just how we've operated for a long time. If it's a new policy, I'll let you answer that first.
Sure, and I'm going to look to the employee relations staff to help me answer that.
Waiting on the meeting.
Hi, I'm Misty Vignola.
Thank you.
So, Misty, as I read this, my understanding is there was a certain time frame requirement that they had to attain a level 3. Is that true? And if I'm reading this right, now we're letting it so they can operate as either a level 2 or 3 MICP. Is that right?
Ms. Kembowski, through the chair, this language that we're deleting out came in 2015, and we put that language in to try to get more people to stay at a 3 or get to a 3, but it has had consequences that were unintended to it. So it was something that we were trying to do to retain the 3s. And it wasn't getting.
You knew exactly where I was going. I was concerned by forcing people to be 3s and maintaining it would actually limit our pool of paramedics.
Correct.
Is that what you were kind of seeing was becoming a challenge?
Yeah, because our paramedic 3s are typically they teach and they do the preceptors, and not everybody is good at that skill set. So requiring everybody to do that has not had the effect that we wanted it to.
Yeah, that makes sense. So now with them either being a 2 or 3, it gives you just more flexibility.
Correct. The people who want to get to a 3 and who have that skill set are able to do that. We've always had a period of time where the 2s and the 3s, they keep it. It just, the 5 years was an extended period of time. So we're putting it back to more of a reasonable level, and we've still seen where people who have gone this far up want to keep it because they like what they do.
Sure. No, totally makes sense. Thank you for that answer.
You're welcome.
Anything else, Mr. Dombrowski? Okay. Other comments from Assembly members? Not seeing any. Please vote.
Mr. Constant is on the phone. Do you want to ask Mr. Constant? Do you want to ask if you
Mr. Constant, I understand you're on the phone. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Do you want to vote on item 14C?
Yes. MS, yes.
Okay, the clerk took it as that. That is approved by the body. The clerk asked that you mute your phone, Mr. Constant.
What's that?
Could you mute your phone?
I am.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chair, can I ask the clerk a quick question? I don't know if Mr. Dyson actually hit his button before he left, but that showed 10 yeses and he wasn't here. So if he hit his button, we're cool, but otherwise,
Mr. Dyson hit his
it said 10 yeses and there are not 10 people in the room.
No, but Chris voted.
Chris is on the phone.
Oh, good
Chris
call.
said he wanted to
Good
be.
call.
So
Yep, I got it. Sorry, I know I'm hypersensitive to this new system. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris, did you want to talk to us about, do you want to continue on the rest of the agenda with us?
Yeah, there was nothing specific. I just wanted to vote yes or no. My duty.
Not a problem. Next item in front of us is item 14D, Resolution AR 2017-264, a resolution approving administrative agreement 2017-01 between Municipality of Anchorage and the Plumbers and Pipe Fitters Local 367 regarding classification changes. There's a accompanying Assembly memorandum, AM 544-2017. Public hearing on this item is now open. Anybody wish to testify, please come forward. State your name clearly for the record, spell your last name, and tell us what part of town you live in. Anyone at all? Hearing saying no, public testimony is closed. What's the wish of the body?
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion from Assembly members. Ms. Dombrowski, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I should have been a little slower on the draw. I don't have my notes in front of me. So as I'm looking at this basically adjustment to collective bargaining agreement that was just approved, there were 30, where's my notes? Okay, I'm just going to shoot from the hip because I don't have my notes in front of me. There were about 37 positions that were going to see an increase in pay, about 20 or so positions that were going to see a decrease. But the net effect, as I was looking at the summary of economic effects, is going to be operating expenses in fiscal year 17 of $72,000 and 18 of $198,000 and of 1,019. To me, that's pretty significant for a CBA that was just approved this year by this body, in which we rejected the arbitrators agreement, and now we're turning around and by reclassification, it's it's a net increase of 2.27% to the CBA. That's pretty significant. So I would love for somebody from the administration to explain to me how this isn't just a get around basically of the Assembly's rejection of the previous agreement.
I think Mr. Abbott may be answering your question, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Dembowski, the plumber's contract and all of the municipal contracts allow for reclassification applications to be received from departments and then evaluated by the Employee Relations Department. And if reclassifications are warranted based on the evaluation done by the Employee Relations Department and the sponsoring department, then that leads to a request such as this. So the reclassification request for AWU employees in this bargaining unit has been underway for a long time, since before the bargaining was underway. And it takes a long time, and because of SAP and other distractions, the Employee Relations Department did not have enough resources to work it as expeditiously as they would have liked. But they did conclude it a couple of months ago, and then presented it to the administration, presented it to the union and the department, and as a result, it's before you today. It does lead to a significant pay change for several dozen employees within the bargaining unit. But it's important to note that these are not cost of living style adjustments for employees. These are because the positions that are changing were being paid inconsistently with other municipal employees in other bargaining units. So these technicians, these mechanics, and others, there were comparables from other bargaining units and other departments of the municipality, and in some cases non-municipal entities, and we satisfied ourselves that these reclassifications were appropriate, and then as a result we brought them forward. You'll note that there were also positions that were downgraded in this request, and several other positions that were kept even, if you will, for which no change was required. So once one of these reclassification process starts, the sponsoring department sort of loses control over it. And in this case, clearly more employees would be benefited under this than would be disadvantaged, but the outcome was not 100% upward in direction.
Okay, and my last question, it's, I just love to see, frankly, how are we going to pay for it? If we're looking at a significant deficit in 17, I suspect, the numbers in 18, 198,000 annually. This is a significant cost. What's your plan?
This will be included in the 2018 AWU budget. There's not a tax impact, a general government impact from these changes.
Will there be a ratepayer impact?
Ultimately, yes.
So I read somewhere 1-point-something%, I can't recall off the top of my head, ratepayer. What was the impact to AWU's budget? 1.25% increase?
I believe that's correct.
You might want to mute your phone, Mr. Constant.
It was on page 576, Amy, you're looking for. It's probably lines 22 and 21. Classification changes raised, yearly increase 1.25%. On page 567.
567?
567, the bottom.
576. I'm missing, actually, page 576. That might be part of my problem.
Sorry, 579.
All right.
I've got it.
All right, thank you. I'll just sit back and listen to the debate. Thank you.
579. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Dembowski. Mr. Wilton, sir?
I have a question and then a comment. So, I guess to Mr. Abbott. So this is for AWU only, and so, but there's plumbers and pipe fitters and other municipal departments, or in municipal departments. Is that correct? And are they coming next?
I don't believe plumbers and pipe fitters employees in other departments are covered by this reclassification because the positions that were reclassified were only inside AWU. There's a few non-AWU plumbers and pipe fitters, I think in facility maintenance and maybe building safety, if I get that right, but they're not subject to this reclassification, this specific reclassification request. And I'm not aware that either of those departments are recommending reclassifications. Did I get that right, Karen? Yeah, thank you.
All right, thanks. So I want to, I guess following up on what Ms. Dombosky said, I remember when we had the contract come to us and we did not accept the arbitrator's decision, but the contract that the union had was basically across the board 5% increases, and that was not palatable to us and I guess the administration either. So, and our discussion was that in lieu of that, this pay scale study would continue, and I think that made more sense than an across-the-board increase, and it seems like this makes sense. I think we all know there's been a lot of negative response to the increased pay for, the deputy chiefs and the fire and police, and then last year for, the other non-rep positions.
The executives?
And then in the executive thing we read in the paper as well. And it is expensive, and you can say, how are we going to pay for it? It's going to be a challenge, but at the end of the day, you do have to pay people what they're worth. And my understanding is AWW stands for Anchorage Wastewater University, because they hire people and then they can move to another department and get paid more fairly quickly. So if you're losing people because you're not paying enough, that's a pretty big sign you need to look at the pay scale. If every single position went up, I would be a little skeptical about this process. But in fact, less than half of them went up. Numbers stayed flat, and quite a significant amount went down. So I haven't read the detailed study. We were given the report, and it looked to me like it was carefully done and made sense. So it is frustrating. Costs go up, and we see that in all aspects of our life, including government. And it's just one of those things we have to learn to live with. So I do support this. Thank you.
Thank you. Comments from Assembly members? Mr. Croft.
I apologize, but it
all right.
was said on the record that this would be a rate increase of 1%. This is a 1.25 yearly increase in the plumbers and pipe fitters pay range, a total of just over 2, because it stretched, 2.27. But do you have any rough estimate, either the administration or AWU, of what this kind of numbers, just under and then just over 100,000 is as a percentage of your rate base?
Go ahead, Brett.
Identify yourself for the record, if you would, sir.
Brett Jokla, General Manager of Anchorage Water and Wastewater Utility. The numbers that the C report for 2018 are $198,000. Our expected revenue for 2018 will be on the order of $110 million. So I'm not going to try and do the numbers in my head, but I think if someone has a calculator, they can determine that that's probably less than 1.5% of the total rate base, or the total expenses of the utility.
It's about 0.1%, I think. But
yeah.
Yeah, well less than 1. Thank you. That's what I wanted to clarify on the record.
Thank you, Mr. Croft. Thank you, sir. Any other comments from Assembly members? Please vote. Mr. Constant, sir? Let him reflect that was a yes. The motion passes. 10 yes, 1 nay. Next item in front of us is item 14E, Ordinance AO 2017-109, an ordinance amending Municipal Code Sections 3.30.156 to allow Anchorage Police Department Association employees who promote to non-representative and executive positions to retain their non-cashable sick leave balance. An accompanying assignment memorandum, AM 580, 2017. Public hearing on this item is now open. They may wish to testify. Please come forward, state your name clearly for the record, spell your last name, and tell us what part of town you live in. Anyone at all? Hearing and saying no in public testimony is closed. What's the wish of the body?
Move to approve.
We'll need a second.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion from assembly members. Ms. Dombrowski, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I had a question for ER. I was just, and maybe I missed it, but I'm trying to figure out if this is just creating parity with APD and other departments. When somebody moves and they're promoted basically to a non-rep in a different department, do they get to keep their cashable sick leave? Is this a new phenomenon? I know you know the answer, Karen.
Karen Norsworthy with Employee Relations. Through the chair, Ms. Dombrowski. Back in, I believe it was 2000, we changed the municipal code so that non-cashable sick leave was no longer something that employees accrued anymore. We've eliminated it from all of the collective bargaining agreements with the exception of APDEA. So nobody's accruing it anymore with the exception of them. So when they promote into non-rep or exec positions, we have been carrying it forward. When we were doing the configuration for SAP and looking at code and making sure that we were handling all of the leave appropriately and how it comes across to configure it, that's when we discovered we did not have this language in the code, and that's what we're doing. So this language that we're putting forward basically puts the language in for what we've already been doing.
Okay. And just to follow up, so APDEA is the only department that's accruing non-cashable sick leave within the whole municipality?
Correct, but it's APDEA, the union members, the represented folks.
Why APD? Why APD?
We have not been successful in getting that out of the collective bargaining agreement.
Huh.
Remember the type of bargaining we do with them?
Oh, I know. They're the ones that still get the seniority-based overtime, too. That gets
Binding
them the
arbitration.
Yeah.
Completion of fire.
So APD is the only entity now that gets non-cashable sick leave. Are they able to donate that to other officers, maybe that get hurt or whatever? Because I know some in the fire department can donate their leave. Can they? Is this leave that they could donate to maybe an officer that gets hurt on the job? Or
they can only donate cashable leave. So the only time they can use the non-cashable sick is if they're sick.
Okay. And, I don't really see here significant fiscal impacts, but I'm thinking if they carry forward 500 hours, say, and then they get promoted to a higher rank, essentially at the end of their tenure, they just take all that leave before they retire? Is that how it usually works?
Well, this is non-cashable sick, so if they're never sick, they won't ever use it. And so when they leave the municipality, it's lost.
Do you see employees go on terminal leave? I'm thinking about like in the military and stuff where you have maybe a bank and then they go on terminal leave to use it all up, and we have somebody who basically were on our books for a year and a half or 2 years, but they're on terminal leave. Do you see what I'm asking?
Well, terminal leave is an interesting thing in that you're using typically your cashable leave as you're going out.
Okay.
I mean, if somebody got horribly sick and they were off, I mean, they would be using up all that leave. Mm-hmm. And then once they used all their cashable sick, then they would start using their cashable leave. And then potentially if they weren't able to come back to work, then yes, they would have run it out.
Okay. Thank you, Karen, for all the information. I think, especially giving the collective bargaining agreement, this is a logical step, but I think this is definitely ripe for the pickings at the next contract negotiation.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments from assembly members? Please vote. Mr. Constant, sir?
Yes.
This is approved unanimously by the body. Next item in front of us is item 14F. Ordinance AO 2017-110, an ordinance amending Municipal Code 3.30.0 144, forfeiture of holiday pay to require employees to be in status, be in paid status the full workday before and after holiday to receive holiday pay. From Employee Relations, the same memorandum, AM 581, 2017. Public hearing on this item is now open. A motion to testify, please come forward. J.J. McCurry for the record. Spell your last name and tell us what part of town you live in. Anyone at all? Hearing and saying no, public testimony is closed. What's the wish of the body? I need a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion from Assembly members. Okay. Please vote, Mr. Constant, sir.
Yes.
What? I thought it did. Sorry. Thank you. That's approved 11-0. Next item in front of us is item 14G. Item 14G is AO 2017-111, an ordinance to the Anchorage Municipal Assembly waiving the closure of marijuana established required by the Anchorage Municipal Code due to license renewal applications not deemed complete on or before July 30th, where the circumstances are beyond the applicant's control and they filed a renewal application prior to that date. Public hearing on this item is now open. If you wish to testify, please come forward. J.J. McCurry for the record. Spell your last name and tell us what part of town you live in. There's an accompanying semi-memorandum with it, AM 100-2017. Anyone at all? Hearing and saying no, and public testimony is closed. What's the wish of the body?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
I have an amendment.
Okay.
I'd like to move Weddleton Amendment number 1. And it was handed out this evening. This simply adds some wording to clarify the intent. It also allows that, the way it's stated is, it only said if the Assembly denies the license, but we'd also not approve it if the Alaska Marijuana Control Board also denied it. So it just really clarifies the process a little bit.
Okay. Questions on Mr. Wilton's amendment? You're not seeing any questions. We're going to vote on Mr. Wilton's amendments first. Please vote. Mr. Constant on Mr. Wilton's amendment.
Yes.
Okay. That was approved 11-0. Now we're going to vote on the main document in front of us as amended. This is item 14G. Please vote. Mr. Constant. Sorry. Mr. Wilton?
I'm sorry. I just would urge approval for it, but I just, to be honest, now, the kind of the reason we did this initially was there were 3 licenses that we thought would miss the date, but in fact, we did get notice from the state, so that's not an issue at this point. So this is really just something for going forward should we run into this again. Sorry. Okay. Thank you.
Please vote. Mr. Constant?
Yes.
Anybody else, brother? Okay. You didn't? I'm on there.
Yeah, I don't think I voted, but it predicted it right.
Yeah. It's just second. People, what, Barbara?
Here comes a man with a laptop.
Is this thing voting for us?
Automated.
Eric, you didn't vote in predicted. Yeah, it just said yes. That's scary. I think this thing needs fixed.
Like it's there, but it's recorded everybody.
Hi, Fred.
Greetings. I'll ask my wife's permission to be here, but I don't think we'll get it.
No problem. We'll take care of it, my friend. See you later.
Thanks for doing that thing on the gluten.
Oh, no problem.
That really got my panties on the wad.
Oh, good. Yeah, I think there's going to be thank you for having me.
I think there's a kind of system was made in China.
Well, I mean, I already reported that. I don't know if I'm not really sure, but I don't know if oh, for me to vote?
What? I can vote now.
But
restoring of the river and fishing there wasn't a priority.
Yeah.
Do you want me to push the S button?
I think you could just, we should just ask everybody to vote. What do you think? Okay, would you ask everyone to vote, please?
Would everybody please vote on the amended document with the document in front of us as amended, please? Mr. Constant, you're the only lucky one. You're doing it by voice.
Yes.
So we know how he voted.
I just hit mine.
I voted. Stop voting?
Yep.
By the way, they said there's an updated system. It may take a while to get it to work, right?
Yeah.
I apologize. And that was approved by the body as amended?
It's, my record shows 11-0.
Okay.
Okay, would you announce that vote on the next?
The record was 11-0 to approve this as amended. That document passes the assembly.
Okay, we're ready.
Okay, the next item in front is item 14H. Item 14H is Resolution AR 2017-275, a resolution of the Anchorage Municipal Assembly approving an alcoholic beverage conditional use for package store license number 4820 for Cellar LLC doing business as Crush Bottle Shop in the B2B Central Business Intermediate District located at 302 G Street within Lot 1, Block 28, Anchorage Townsite Subdivision. You're located at the southwest corner of West 3rd Avenue and G Street in the Anchorage Downtown Community Council, case number 2017-0096. Accompanying same memorandum, AM 593-2017. Public hearing on this item is now open. Anybody wish to testify, please come forward, state your name clear for the record, spell your last name, and tell us what part of town you live in.
Mr. Chairman,
Welcome, sir.
Scott Anaya, A-N-A-Y-A. I live in Hillside, and owner-manager of Crush Wine Bistro and Cellar, our associated bottle shop. Basically here to say thank you for all the work you and your body do in making Anchorage a place where we can have our businesses, and make myself available should any questions that arise here.
Thank you, sir. Questions for this gentleman? Anybody got a question? Queue in. There don't appear to be any questions, sir. Thank you. Anybody else wish to testify on this item, please come forward. Anyone at all? Hearing and saying no, public testimony is closed. What's the wish of the body?
Move to approve.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion from assembly members. Okay. So how are we doing, Barbara?
We're good.
Okay. Then please vote. Chris, your vote, sir? Mr. Constant?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Heard you, sir. Thank you. That was approved unanimously by the body. 11-0. Next item in front of us is item 14I. Item 14I is Resolution AR 2017-276, a resolution of the Anchorage Municipal Assembly approving a marijuana license and special land use permit for a marijuana retail storage establishment with license number M11411, doing business as Denali Dispensaries, located at 225 East 5th Avenue, Downtown Community Council, case number 2017-0089, Municipal Clerk's Office. And there's accompanying a same memorandum, AM 594, 2017. Public hearing on this item is now open. Anybody wish to testify, please come forward. State your inquiry for the record. Spell your last name. Tell us what part of town you live in. Mr. Wilton, this came in front of your committee. Do you want to tell us what the results of your committee was on this?
I can. You want me to do it now or close the public hearing?
Why don't you do us now
Okay.
before we get people in here?
All right, since no one's coming up, maybe we'll stir some interest in this. We did recommend approval of this, and we acknowledged a couple items that are of interest. One is Identity Inc. is very close to it, and we had some discussions on a previous marijuana retail and determined that that is not a protected category. So that had become an issue. It is also right next to another approved marijuana retail, and downtown, some downtown businesses have been concerned about density, and that's pretty dense when they're side by side. But we'll see how that shakes out. So we did discuss that and acknowledged it. And then another thing to note on this is if you look in the full packet, the number of calls for service to APD when this was a bar was extensive. There were over 19 pages. It was just shocking. We have not seen anything close to that with all the marijuana industry combined. So I think this will be an improvement to the neighborhood. So we did recommend approval.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anybody wish to testify on this item, please come forward. You'll have 3 minutes. Anyone at all? Hearing and seeing no public hearings closed. What's the wish of the body?
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion from assembly members. Okay. Let's vote on this. Mr. Constant, need your vote, sir.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you, sir. No, I did it. I hit it, Barbara. Mr. Dyson, could you hit your vote again? It didn't record yours either, sir. Okay, got it. Passed 11-0. Let's see. Do we have any special orders, Barbara? Okay. No special orders, no reserve. Audience participation, item 17. Is there anybody that wishes to address the segment, any item at all? Hearing and seeing no one, we're going to move on then from item 17 to assembly comments. Mr. Constant, where in the world are you, sir?
I just say thank you, and this will be the meeting I speak the very least at.
Where are you at now in the world?
I'm in Barcelona. I'm preparing to come home.
Okay.
It's been a hell of a week here, but I'll talk about that next meeting.
Well, thank you, sir. Be safe. We'll see you when you come back. Any other comments from assembly members? I have set a work session up for Thursday, and that's going to be on the development going in at Elmore and Tudor, because I want to find out the current status. I remember when they talked to us last time, they said there was a problem with the school buses, and apparently they've rectified that problem. So I got them coming. It should be this Thursday, I think, at noon. Clerk tells me I'm correct. So, anyway, Ms. Wilton. Sorry, Ms. LaFrance, and then I'll go to Mr. Dyson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Congratulations are in order to John Weddleton and his wife, Ronnie, on their recent marriage.
Thank you. And I've known the newest Mrs. Weddleton for a number of years. I got to know her when she helped out on my campaign, which is fairly unexpected. And it was, whatever happened in that campaign, that was definitely the greatest result. She's a wonderful woman. And she was here earlier. I wish I could have her come up and say hello, but you'll be seeing more. Thanks.
Congratulations, sir.
Good job, Jack.
Yeah, that's your new name, man.
Mr. Dyson, sir.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Kudos to city manager. I went to him with a zoning problem, and he made the right things happen effortlessly, and I appreciate that. I noticed in the newspaper about a homeowner who asked the police to help him evict some squatters in his house, and the newspaper reported that the police couldn't, and that the homeowner had to go through a formal eviction process. That seems unusual to me, and I would appreciate for perhaps our next meeting or in writing a comment on that from the administration. I've been a landlord many times and gone through the eviction process, but the idea that somebody moves in uninvited and is camping out there wouldn't seem to me to require a formal eviction process. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dyson. Any other comments from Assembly members? Well,
Move to adjourn.
move to adjourn.
Second.
We're adjourned. Thanks for being here.